Chapter 2. Like Father, Like Son. A huge funeral was held at John Roebling's home in Trenton, New Jersey. The whole town showed up. 2,000 people stood on the lawn in front of his house to honor him. 50 or so important men came from Brooklyn and New York City, too. Politicians, builders, and engineers. The train pulled up right in front of the Roebling house. When the funeral was over, the men from Brooklyn all agreed that 32-year-old Washington Roebling should take over building the bridge. He had helped his father build the Cincinnati Bridge. He had also helped his father draw up the plans for the Brooklyn Bridge. Washington Roebling was like his father in many ways. He was smart, honest, and very sure of himself. But while his father was strict and stern, Washington was kind and gentle. His father had a bad temper. Washington was easygoing and calm. After college, Washington Roebling had gone to work in his father's wire factory. In fact, he ran it for a while when he was only 20 years old. Then the Civil War broke out in 1861. Washington joined the Union Army in the fight against the southern states that had broken away from the country. At the age of 24, Washington was an officer in charge of building bridges. One time, his job was to build a bridge across the Shenandoah River in Virginia. But how wide was the river? There were no boats to sail across the river with a measuring tape, so Washington attached one end of the tape to the shore. Then he swam across the river himself, with the tape in his mouth. Toward the end of the war, Washington was sent to work for General G.K. Warren. General Warren was also an engineer, and the two of them built bridges for use during the war. At a party for officers, Washington fell in love with the general's sister, Emily Warren. She liked him too. He was handsome and kind, with blue-gray eyes, light hair, and a sharp mind. Emily was perfect for Washington. She was graceful and intelligent. Best of all, she loved science. She understood all the details about bridge building when Washington explained them to her. 6 weeks after the ball, they were engaged, and on January 18, 1865, Washington and Emily were married. They had a double wedding ceremony with another one of her brothers and his bride. In 1867, Emily became pregnant with their first and only child. That same year, John Roebling sent Washington and Emily to Europe to look at bridges there. John Roebling paid for the whole trip. He knew he was going to build the Brooklyn Bridge soon, or at least he hoped so. He wanted his son to learn all about caissons. Caissons were the heavy foundations or bases that went under bridge towers. They were a new idea. A few bridge builders in Europe had been using them for about 20 years. While Washington and Emily were in Europe, their son was born on November 21, 1867. They named him John A. Roebling II. For several months, Washington and Emily traveled all over Europe. They talked to bridge engineers everywhere they went. When they came back to America, Washington knew more about caissons than his father did. It was a good thing, too, because when it was time to start building the bridge, John Roebling was already dead. Washington Roebling took over the job. He would be the chief engineer. He had no idea it would be the most dangerous job he would ever do, or that, in some ways, it would ruin his life.